I'd like to reflect now on how the Science STEM Scopes training that you saw aligns with our campus improvement plan and how a digital resource like this can really improve instruction on our campus and motivate teachers to get those science minutes in every day. The training itself was given from the district science coordinator at my elementary school with just a section of science teachers that signed up from grades kinder to 5th grade, although the program itself does extend into middle school, which is really excellent when you think about vertical alignment and whether or not resources are really teaching to the specificity and depth that they should be. If teachers can use a resource like this across all grade levels, then think about the ease and excitement that our students will have being more engaged and already knowing how to log in and access the components and do the activities. I just see a lot of great things happening. And so moving on from that, going into my feelings about it, I couldn't be more excited. I know that last year when we first tried to adopt some STEM scopes, it didn't really stick because a lot of teachers were in the mentality that, well, I'm going to do what always works, or they weren't as willing to take risks on a new program that they weren't familiar with. And what I've realized through my training as, a leader in training is that a lot of times resistance comes through lack of clarity. And when you stop and clarify things for people, a lot of times you can see where the alignment and the relevancy applies. So it was important for me to go to this training. That way I can take so much of it back to my teachers that weren't able to go, and in turn then present this information to our campus science teachers, which is what part of my plan and one of my next practicum activities will be, is to share this information and then train science teachers on our campus. One thing that I did appreciate about the training was it was interactive, and that's where the participation came into play. If you were not following along and really seeing how the process looked for you, then it was really impossible to let that kind of absorb, and then you wouldn't really be able to bring it to your other teammates. And so part of a training like this, I think a lot of times teachers, we still want to bring our notebooks and we still want to take notes, and professional development has changed a lot with regards to digital literacy. And with our district being a technology forward and digitally transparent district, it's really important that we have the kind of access to digital components of instruction and resources, and it's important that we offer our teachers the training that they need for these resources. I think that the part that I would have liked to show, but I could not because of student information being on the page, part of FERPA and confidentiality, I wouldn't have been able to project my student screen because student ID numbers and names and other information would have been on there. But the feedback that we are encouraged to submit is very beneficial to the writers of these programs. And as you heard the coordinator say, when we submit, or when we're about to submit this feedback, they're going to immediately look at this and fix it with a lot of urgency, because they know that this is a resource we are really in need of, and that's being used district-wide. So if there's a problem that we see, we need to be able to feel comfortable to give feedback. So I was really happy that we had training on that component. I was also very happy to see just how easy it is to use the class assigning components to either target individual students and assign them remedial assignments, or if they were absent, assigning them what they needed to catch up for an instruction, or being able to assign your entire class one activity is really neat. In the process, you're able to actually set the parameters of the activity and set the start date, the end date, and when you want your students to be able to have access to the activity. You can get the feedback immediately from the tests in a printout online. You can go in and look at an objective, a student objective broken down report, or you can have the option of having your results just emailed to you. So I can immediately get the feedback from how my class did on the pre-assessment, and then I'll be able to go from there and see what I can do next for them. So I think having that kind of immediate feedback and data is just extremely important and really exciting for science instruction. If we can make it easy and we can make it engaging, then student success is definitely we're going to see some great improvements there. I think students will be a lot more engaged, and our teachers will be a lot more willing to take those risks and say yes to something new when they see that they can immediately get something graded and then get their feedback and then see the data from their classroom. So that was really neat. The last parts of the reflection that I want to talk about are just my conclusions and the actions that I would recommend. I think that as an administrator, looking through the eyes of this as a teacher, leader, or an administrator, you have to think about your campus goals, and you have to think about what you're spending your time on and what you use for professional development, or what you ask teachers to go and spend time learning. That's really showing what your priorities are and your focus. So we have had lots of opportunities, including this training here, to prepare for science instruction and to become more familiar with the resources that are available within our district. The perspective that I took, from the eyes, obviously I had to be my role as a classroom teacher, but also in my mind I'm thinking the entire time that as an administrator, it's going to be my job to show my staff the relevancy of things like this and why we adopt them and why we use our time. The more time you're spending on something, that shows your priority and that shows what you think best practice is. So if I have my teachers attend a district training and participate in the components that they're asking and go through all this work to set up their classes and to do these mock trials and things like that, then I would expect to see that being used almost immediately. One of the conclusions I can draw is that the district is going to follow up with STEM scopes. This is not going to be a professional development that is just kind of thrown at you where we don't come back to it and see how it's affecting our kids' success. This is a district adopted resource, so there will be more professional development offered, but I know that our campus is going to include STEM scopes in our resources, in our PLCs, so they can check in and administration can see how we're using these. I know that this is also going to be a component on our walkthroughs. As I met with my mentor and talked about their goals for us, she definitely reiterated the part of our campus improvement plan where these resources fit in with that. Our goal is to see that 80% of our teachers are using this for their Tier 1 instruction in science, And regardless of your special ed or your inclusion, your ESL or your bilingual kids, your GT, you're getting the same tier 1 instruction. And then what's really cool about STEM Scopes is it allows you, and it has all these components for you to scaffold for your kids, to differentiate for your kids, and to assign them what they need, not just saying, here, go and complete this activity. We really are targeting our vision there and our mission to get kids exactly what they need and get them more engaged in science so that they can be more successful. I feel now that the actions that should be taken are immediate. I immediately brought this information right into my classroom and immediately shared the process of logging in and how students can access this resource with my kids, and they're extremely excited. I can tell that if my kids are excited about that, and I've done, an average job of at least showing them, but a really great job of showing my excitement, then I know that my kids are going to be excited too. So I think that teachers can take away just knowing that their attitude and the way that they model science or engagement for science is going to really affect the level of engagement and excitement that their students have. Next, I would say that there needs to be a follow-up process and a way to track the professional development impact on the student body. And I think that we are going to do that through PLCs, and we are going to do that through observations through our PDOS program and evaluation system. Finally, I'd like to see some teachers get together, maybe every 6 weeks or maybe once a semester. I'm not sure at this point, it's being such a new resource, but I would think maybe once a 6 weeks, see how this resource is being used and see what we can do to improve, or what we can do better to kind of troubleshoot the issues that we've had. What can we do better for next year when we're launching this? I think that'd be really beneficial for teachers to know, and have a heads up and a breakdown of what I need to do, how this has gone so far this year. Has it been successful? What are the issues that have come up? What are the technology issues that have come up? What kind of barriers and walls do we have as teachers bringing this to our students? So all of those things just being really important. It's definitely a resource that we're excited about. It's definitely a resource that we see where it is aligned and it is useful. So the next steps would be just to implement it and to assess and see where we need to go from there. I definitely see it being used as a diagnostic tool, not necessarily holding the same weight as other assessments or maybe a district assessment or campus assessment, but I would like to see STEM Scope holding some weight on the evaluation process that we have for the growth that our kids are having in science this year. So utilizing those progress assessment monitor components, the pre-assessment, the writing components, the math connections, all of those things can be used as a really great a source for formative and summative information. So I would then finally suggest another, and which is what I'll be doing, another staff training that would include all these parts, but now from a district level, we'll be able to, myself and my colleagues that were there, we can now present this to the rest of the faculty that wasn't able to go, and then see how, what questions, concerns, comments they have, and then just launch it out there instead of just saying, here's the resource that we have, and, here it is, and let's use it. I think that I've learned more so that when launching professional development, it definitely needs to be a systemic process, whereas in the past we've seen, not systems, but programs just maybe kind of pushed onto us where there's no feedback and there's no follow-up. I would think that this would be something that would be very systemic, and we would have a process that we would follow, and we would definitely be reflecting on that at the end. So with those things in mind, I'm really, again, very excited. I am very happy as a fifth grade science teacher to see where this aligns to my curriculum, but not only that, to see how easy it is for other teachers to, or see how easy it might be for other teachers to launch this in their classroom, and then for us to come back, reflect, meet vertically, and then kind of follow up and reflect on it together. So all of that in mind, I'm excited to see where this resource brings us this year and to see the effects that it has on our science achievement.